Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us, and we're honored to be able to start off our discussion with our good friends from Cayman Enterprise City as we invite you to be a part of a discussion. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-TALK. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email Talk Today at candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for joining us as we're honored to be able to welcome to our studio Miss Cindy O'Hara, the Chief Development Officer at Cayman Enterprise City, together with Miss Caitlin Levinson, the Marketing Manager. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us, and I must commend you for not only upward and onward, but your continual willingness to share with the public your plans, not just for PR, but for us to be vested and invested in this project, and as it moves us forward, not only the economic, but the employment opportunities and the opportunity to demonstrate that entrepreneurial spirit that we see. So, Miss Cindy, always proud of you, man. Thank you very much for being you.
You're my biggest fan. I just love coming here. It's like a big pep talk every time I walk through the door.
Hey.
And I thank you for inviting us back. We would be here every day and talk to you every day if we could. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for that. And it's important. And I say this sincerely. We need to be honest, but we need to be positive. And as we look at trying to build each other, your success means my success. Our success means the society, not just economic, but the social stability and the prosperity that we share. And the more of us that are employers and entrepreneurs, and the more taxes we pay, the more services the government can provide, the healthier, the wealthier, not just financially. Right, Miss Caitlin?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got it.
So does it have song? You got it. That's good. No, but Cayman Enterprise City, from time it was announced until present, there's been some wonderful things that have happened. You've been dedicated, consistent, and anybody knows, you're plugging away, you're seeing little wins. Each time, it's just something to celebrate. So thanks for sharing with us. And I'm excited to hear more from you as we look at what's transpired so far and what lies ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We are very excited. I have the best job in the world. I say it over and over, and no one believes me, but it's the truth, because I'm working on a dream project, which is also I have a vested interest in for the best of not only for the best of Cayman, but for the future. And so it's a great. Not only is it a great job, but it's a great position to be in. My team are fantastic and have been working diligently, and I'm talking team of a number of people, not just people within Cayman Enterprise City, but the development team is many people in the Cayman Islands, many design professionals and construction professionals. The project, which, as we all know, started about 7 years ago, really the design part of this started at the same exact time. In fact, I was designing before the project started. It was part of the reason that I wanted to be involved in the project. So the design of this project, I could say I've gone to sleep with every night and woken up every morning with for the last 7 years.
All right. And that's the thing, many of us, we don't, it's like the guy who, well, when I say guy, he could be male or female, who has a sailboat in the backyard, eventually looking forward to launching it one day. But not only do you need to get the sanding done and the riggings done, but you need to make sure everything is okay. And the day you splash, and you can take it to the family, and you can, it's got to be nice. So looking forward to when you splash, right?
It's a long road to the splash, as you put it, because it's just like everything. And anything good takes a lot of time to organize. It takes a lot of time to work with the government to get to where we are. So we've had some major milestones which have been in the newspaper, things like our planning permission, the pad approval, purchase of land, subdivision of land. All of these things take a lot of time. And rightly so, because there's a lot of considering. It's not just our side of the fence. You know, we have a plan that's moving forward, but the government has to consider that plan as well. When I mean that, I mean the planning department, who have been fantastic throughout this process. I think we have a good partnership with the planning department in the sense that we've been able to work with them and nurture the project to get it to where it is today, which is a planning permission for 60,000 square feet of office space, which is 2 buildings. Which we hope to be under construction in November. We will be, at that point, filling land and hopefully big groundbreaking and some fun cookies on site. But to me, that's the little stuff. Yeah. The big stuff is the actual moving forward, finally, of our project in South Sound.
Now, in relation to scale and scope, design, the aesthetic, as well as perhaps, the physical building material, what 2 buildings started at 60,000 square feet between the two? How many floors?
Well, the actual first phase is 100,000 square feet. So what we've applied for is the first 2 buildings, which are the smallest. The first building that we call it we are very unimaginative. It's B006. They're all numbered, so I do apologize for that. I'll have to come up with some good names.
You're an architect, right?
Yeah, I can figure that out for us, right? But so this building is our hub building. It's a 2 and 3 story with a roof garden. It's really the hub of this phase. It'll have a big cafe, and it has a lot of the social interaction space. It's built to be not only the social epicenter, but the collaborative areas for the site. So that's the first building. The second building is more client-centric, and therefore would be I wouldn't call it a typical office building, but kind of heading into a hospitality-branded, styled office. I always like to think of us as a hotel for business. So, we are open and we put together our project based on a place that people actually will enjoy going to every day.
And think about it, we're in school, whether that's university or, our primary secondary education, we're there a lot. We're at work, whatever that is. It could be your home office or it could be your office building. You're there for a lot of your waking hours. Some of us maybe asleep at a wheel, a different story. But we're there a lot. So making it that, hotel for businesses, I like it. Just getting to not just market and brand, but being involved with the promotion, with keeping the milestones in front of people, reminding the team where we are, involving the community. This has to be a buy-in because it's going to affect us, the infrastructure, the employment, the potential for businesses to be attracted. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I know. We just celebrated our 250th company, so that's really exciting to see that great base of people within the special economic zone. And for those of you who don't know what Cayman Enterprise City is or not quite sure, we have 3 special economic zones. We've got Cayman Tech City, Cayman Maritime and Aviation City, and Cayman Commodities and Derivative City. So we're allowing for these individuals and these creative people and companies to come down and set up in the special economic zones. And that really helps to contribute to Cayman by way of offering new careers for students. It helps, these people are buying houses. They're, engaging with our community. So it's a really exciting project to be involved with.
As we talk, Ms. Cindy, Ms. Caitlin, in relation to, I call it campus.
Perfect word, actually. That's what we call it.
Okay, all right. I probably got it from you.
Probably, yeah.
For those who don't know Cayman Enterprise City, tell us where is that? Where are you looking?
So the campus was a very long, drawn-out decision on where to locate, but we purchased a property in South Sound a couple of years ago, which is behind the rugby field, really, if you want a really good landmark. If you imagine looking down on Google Earth, which everybody has now.
What's that?
Exactly. And you look down on the map and you see this big open land that's kind of in between Linford Pearson and behind the residential area in South Sound where the rugby field is actually the center line, if you would, of our property. 53 acres sounds like, well, to me, it sounds like a lot of land. But when you actually see the physical size of it, it really is a big piece of land, you know. And so we're very busy trying to figure out, you know, how to get infrastructure to that land, roads, and so the parts of the planning have been kind of completed, if you would, and now we're into we're moving towards construction, and so you know, building the infrastructure that takes us to the property. The government's been working on that, filling the road area, and then we are filling the road areas, moving into our site, doing studies on geotechnical and soil studies and those sorts of things that have to happen to begin with. The next stage will be filling the site. But right now, we can call it pre-construction, if you would, because we've as I said, we're submitting to building control this month for the 2 buildings that we just discussed. But the next phase will be pre-qualification of contractors. So we'll be putting things in the newspaper that talk about, you know, all of the portions of the project that we will be bidding. We're not traditional general contracting this project, which I think everybody kind of understands that if you've built a house, you hire a contractor, the contractor kind of manages all the subcontractors. You make one contract with one builder, and then they build the project. This is a traditional way, and truthfully a very good way of constructing. But we've kind of gone with a different route. It's called construction management, which means that we have a team of consultants that then manage all of the various parts of the construction. This allows us to, I guess you could say, allow smaller contractors the ability to work as a team instead of hiring like a large contractor to come on board with their staff, if you would, and their and I guess you could call it their plant or their equipment. So we'll be looking at it from that point of view, because when we designed these buildings, we wanted to design buildings that went up quickly. We wanted to design buildings that were very high tech and green, and so we're carrying that through to the construction as well.
All right. Now, before we go to the break, you give us the general location. So I'm picturing sort of South Sound in one aspect, and I call it up that area. So when we're going to visit the site, either as an employee or we're living there, working there, how would we get to it?
That's actually the best question. Because when I say South Sound, it's very misleading, and I do apologize. The only reason I say that is because it gives you a landmark, right? Yes, yeah. But that's not the access to the site at all. In fact, that would kind of be silly to kind of go all the way to South Sound and come back up north. So the access part will be from Fairbanks to begin with, kind of where the women's prison is right now. There's a new plan for that road that will, in fact, there's a new plan for all the roads there, which is not my story to tell. That's the government story, but there's a new plan.
Coming
for the roads.
soon, to station near you.
Exactly. But that's going to be our first access. You'll have roundabouts and all the things that you would imagine that come onto our new site across there. And then there's a second access, which I guess the easiest way to put this is that when you get down Agnes Way, where Jose is, you go to a roundabout there and you think to yourself, why is there a roundabout there that's that big? It's going to go where? Where's that going? Well, eventually that'll go to our site as well. So that one kind of continues straight down and will hit the east side. Yeah.
And, on that side, yeah.
Yes. And so we'll have 2 access points to the 53 acres.
Perfect. Coming
off 2 roundabouts that haven't been created yet, but they're coming.
Yeah, they're not in the sky. They're right there.
No, they're the fill parts. They're starting. I'm hoping for the rainy season to be over soon, and then we can get some actual work done.
There you go. When we come back, we invite you to not only listen in, but if you have a comment, a question, a query, you want to, I believe, share a very deserved congratulations to Miss Cindy and her team. Do so. Cindy O'Hara together with Miss Caitlin Levinstone as we talk about the wonderful things that lie ahead for Cayman Enterprise City. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
It's your time, Cayman Islands. Time to have your say. The Cayman opposition will be hosting community meetings to discuss the future of Cayman's cruise industry. Get the accurate industry figures and ensure you have your say. Does Cayman lag behind our competitors? What are the complaints from passengers? And are tenders workable? Get the truth and help ensure Cayman's future cruise industry remains bright. Phase 1 of the opposition island-wide meetings will take place at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, October 2nd, Northside Civic Center. Wednesday, October 3rd, Buttontown Civic Center. And Thursday, October 4th, Savannah Primary School Hall. Phase 2 of the district meetings will be scheduled next week. It is your time, Cayman Islands. It is time to have your say. The Cayman Opposition, safeguarding our future.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
Did you know that the Department of Environmental Health operates a recycling program in the Cayman Islands? Recyclables such as number 1 and 2 plastics, tin and aluminum cans, cardboard, as well as glass and ceramic items are recycled on Grand Cayman by the DEH. Take these items to the recycling depots located at all Foster supermarkets, Kirk Market, and Hurley's Grand Harbor. Remember, keep the Cayman Islands clean, reduce, reuse, and recycle. For more information about recycling, please visit DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. And in the studio, Miss Cindy O'Hara together with Miss Caitlin Evanstone as we talk about Cayman Enterprise City. And this is October, was the 2nd, is it? Wow.
I can't believe it.
It is the 2nd of October, so that means Christmas candy isn't far
don't
away.
Say it. It's frightening.
Cassava cake. But anyway, I got to hit it myself. So you talk about groundbreaking in November.
That's right. That'll be start of really filling the site. And all the good stuff that planning will allow us to do.
And this forward. That was something that you shared earlier, and I think that, as people who go back to building a house, we know there's a process. You've probably been dreaming about this house for the longest time, looking at plans, talking to your architect and designer, getting things, and eventually you're going through the planning process. I think what you've done has been meticulous. It may have been a lengthy process, but it just shows not just attention to detail, but the desire to make it the very best that you can and get it right at the beginning. What is it that you guys tell us? It's cheaper to change it on paper than...
Always is. Yep. Exactly.
All right. Back in my day it was an eraser, but nowadays you have this mouse click and you lines
That's right.
All right. So excited to share more about your campus.
Well, the campus, everybody, I guess you think even with a house, you understand that you have to go and you do have a design phase, and then you have, I call it the permitting phase, and then after that you have your construction phase that comes, and in between that's the bidding. For us, the actual design of the master plan, which we were designing for some time, as I told you, I slept and dreamt about it, but that was granted in December 2015. Since then, we've been looking at I guess you call it the granular, like the smaller parts. But the whole plan is 1 million square feet of mixed use. It has about 450,000 square feet of hospitality and residential. It has a very large lake. We have built in a lot of conservation into the overall design. So these things, they took time just to get to that stage. And you're right, it's a honing of that design till you get it to just right. So for us, when we looked at this project, we understand what most people understand in Cayman is that you're going to need fill. And while I wish we had a piece of land that didn't require such things, pretty much everybody has that same requirement. With our site being Greenland, if you would, or marshland, we have to actually dig a lake eventually to gain fill for the site. But we realized quickly on that we would eat up most of the site with a lake because we would need that much fill. So we're going to have to purchase fill. So I won't say that we're digging a lake specifically just to fill the entire site. We realized that we wanted some land left over, so we went with we have a 19-acre lake. What's interesting about our lake is that we plan to filter it. I've always, especially as a kid, you go, I was a young diver, And I remember diving in the marl pits any time that something went wrong, and it was horrible. When you think about it, all these marl pits that exist on the island had this filter at the bottom. You couldn't even see if you jumped in. The water always seemed like milk. It's very. And I thought, I don't want a hole that water resides in. I want to have a reclaimed lake, something that people can row on and use like water frontage. So for that, we created a system where we hired amazing consultants actually out of Florida for this, where you take the water from the lake and you pump it up to a reservoir. And then we're going to send it back through a series of very natural, 100% natural, kind of just like a fish tank, going back out through a river. So each time you see a bridge kind of on our design, that's where a baffle is, and inside of that is basically gravel. And the gravel actually, when the water passes through it, filters the water with good bacteria, and out comes on the other side, and it kind of becomes a cycled system. It also creates flow, and flow in which is why canal developments work very well. Flow allows for your very healthy water system. So we've been working. And that actually part of it has been put on hold only because it's kind of the next phase, if you would. But we had, and I know we'd met on this one. We have met with the Department of Environment, and we're working closely with them so that we can make sure that this project might be a model project for other reclamation of fill lakes. Additionally, we've been looking at our buildings in the same way. How can we use less water for irrigation? How can we, so we have cisterns. We are actually going back to the good old days. Our building has a full cistern, and that cistern is not for just the purposes of fire. In fact, we don't really have that requirement. It's for irrigation and for reuse. So we want to save as much water as possible. So every building will have a pretty sizable cistern. And then similarly, we're going to use solar and all the renewables. But on the other side of it, you have to design with the environment in mind to begin with. So for us, the actual envelope of the building is just as important. You have three parts to any sustainable building. The envelope of the building, so that's the outside insulation, all the stuff that's almost boring, but I really like it.
I'm sorry, me too.
It's the part that kind of really makes a difference. The windows that you use, the doors. And when you have a house, and you would understand what I'm talking about, because those things really matter when you make, when you put that investment in. And then the second part is, how do you design the energy efficiency of the buildings? That's all your mechanical systems, your electrical systems, that sort of thing. And then we've gone a bit of a step further, and we're looking at this as a smart building, so that it could be controlled from a phone rather than the old-fashioned, light switches and that sort of thing. So that we're moving away, I guess you could say, from what we might consider traditional to something that's more smart. And the reason for that again is that when we can keep up with technology and if you have to move a wall in the future, you're not worried about all the stuff that we have inside of the walls. Like, as I said, light fixtures, and they'll be modular, and they kind of click out and click back in. And then the last part, as I said, is renewable energy, to make sure that we can, have the use of the sky, use of the things that Cayman has to offer. And then I think the last thing, and this is actually my favorite, is to incorporate indigenous plants and not have to use pesticides, and so our goal on top of that is to create a very sustainable development that doesn't have a very big carbon footprint and definitely doesn't have doesn't impact Cayman Islands, all of the water that we have, as you just talked about it right as we were walking in. Water is the most important thing.
It is.
So for us, that's true too. So that's the big picture. But we take it all the way to the small, to the person. So
you have a macro perspective, but each part is a micro view of everything. Now, indoor air quality, as you were sharing, I'm thinking that's important. There was a time not long ago when sick buildings, whether here or internationally, was of concern. You're looking at having green spaces outside, but presumably living walls inside, not just for aesthetics but for health.
Exactly. I think it even goes further because you see that, and this is the exciting part that I find very exciting, is that we kind of live in this little bubble of air conditioning, and we forget that there's this beautiful world outside. So we've actually designed our exterior to be outdoor meeting spaces. We want people to go outside. So we see the outside, the garden, as an extension of the workspace. And how to do that really is to create, again, three things. You got to make it cool. No one's going to go if it's cool. You got to make sure it's shaded, right? And we're using water features to bring in that cool, while ours is going to be more tranquil and zen-like because we want it to be a workplace, outside. But That's one of the challenges we've been working with. Actually, we've been working with some of the local landscape providers, because I think that, you can talk to landscape architects from around the world, but what's going to die and what's going to live in Cayman needs to be taught by the people that actually, deal with it on a daily basis. So we're designing based on, what is the true indigenous plants and how can we incorporate those into our design.
We know they're sturdier. We know that, because they're already acclimated to the environment forever, less water, easier to maintain.
Salt tolerant.
Yep.
They'll be here after a storm. All these things are very important. And green walls, it's kind of, you're right, it's like on my wish list, finally get it, So we have some green walls inside and out. We've got, we're looking at bringing that line that everybody has at the door. We're kind of blending it, so a bit of the inside in and a bit of the outside out.
Studies from NASA showing that, particular plants versus those, and I love plants, but I won't profess to even know, well, that is this kind of plant. No. But those big green leafy plants, we know what they've done for air quality as they test in space. They apply that that research here in our sphere. They've seen that those plants indoors, what it does for, well, you're an architect, you know better than I do probably, the filtration of the air inside and making it healthier.
And it's simple stuff. It's simple stuff that unfortunately becomes a challenge when you're designing. But the simple stuff is, I don't want to look from one building onto a dirty roof of another building. Yeah. So we're green. We're planting all of our roofs with grass on a minimum.
It's cooler as well.
It's cooler. It acts as insulation. It has so many benefits.
Runoff.
Exactly. And then you add to that, as I said, adding to the walls and in between spaces, making sure that they're well planted.
Not, I certainly recognize that with, as progressive architects and designers like yourselves start to challenge the envelope. Our building laws and policymakers and planners and technicians have to be au fait with what's happening. But as you're looking at those walls, sort of being fixed structures, as we would know now with the electrical, you're talking about open space and having this little handheld device, whether it's your phone or otherwise. Would that, with the greatest respect, present a challenge for or traditional planning to say, well, okay, you raise your electrical 5 feet from this opening, 10 feet from there. No, it's really.
To be honest, the building code has been upgraded recently. I think that our government is progressive in the way that they want these things for our country, and so I don't. Although I think there are still some growing pains that will happen with new technology. There always is, but. And it's kind of, just making sure that everybody has the correct information that they need to be able to do their job. So, while we're designing in this modular method where I can, literally plug out a light fixture instead of calling an electrician to do it, it costs more up front, which is the scarier part. But on the other side, you can imagine how much you save in the longevity of a building. So for us, that's more important. And, we're looking at making sure that the comfort of our clients is first. So control of the strangest things like air conditioning. I mean, we've all been in a building where one person's got a sweater on, another person's hot, and it's because the building is like a breathing, living animal sometimes. It has hot spots, it has cool spots, it's got flow coming out of one area more than another area. These things are hard to balance. So these systems actually help that, and it'll help making sure that the person that has a sweater on can take their sweater off, and the person that's feeling too hot by the window is going to get the right amount of air. So all this technology isn't scary to me. I think it's kind of the next step in the evolution of construction.
Indeed. And as we go to the break, we recall some of the things in China that battle with smog and pollution, wherever there are buildings, I guess, living green, breathing buildings, and they construct outside, these forests almost. You're looking at something similar here for us, so environmentally, economically. Now, as we come back from this break and you conclude with us, sharing the exciting plans, please feel free to lay out all the good things, For those of you, the prize, no, there's no prize. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Please rejoin us as we continue speaking with Ms. Cindy O'Hara and Ms. Caitlin Elphinstone. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
Radio Cayman, your number one community station, would like to remind you that we are in the hurricane season, and in order to survive a hurricane, you need to be prepared. If officials' sources say a hurricane is imminent, please board up or shutter up windows in your home or place of business. Remember to use good lumber, as makeshift boarding may actually cause more damage. Also put strong bracing on outside doors so that they are not blown off or blown in.
This hurricane advice was brought to you by Radio Cayman, your caring community radio station.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. And yes, I'm truly excited, not just for the entrepreneurial spirit, not just for that great sort of presence of Miss Caitlin and Miss Cindy, but what this means. I see Cayman not as a pioneer frontier land by any means, but with a resilience in our population, this drive, this innovative spirit, this desire, not just for today, but for generations to come. And if we think back, Miss Cindy, that notion that the seafarers or the great boat builders, they were akin to the cathedral builders in a sense. You've picked up the mantle, you and Charlie and the like, as you move forward with this project. Maybe it'll become, as you said, that example, that precedent for future developments as to how we can incorporate economic with the environment, with the entrepreneur, with the industrial. It is inspiring with Cindy O'Hara together with Caitlin Everson to talk about Cayman Enterprise today. Now, we've got a lot of milestones thus far. Take us forward.
The hard part when you're designing anything, you actually have to step back every once in a while. You can't just kind of keep moving forward with the decisions that you might have made and think that they're still the correct decisions. So you continually evaluate. And actually, just recently, right before we submitted for our planning permission, I kind of had an exodus, and I said, wait a second, guys, I don't like the feel and the look. What was in the newspapers prior to this, I said, it just doesn't feel like Cayman. And so we looked at what could bring that tropical feeling back to it and make it more a sense of place, that you could sit here and think, I am in the Cayman Islands, or at least I'm in the Caribbean. But in so many places we feel we could be in Florida, or I always think, I don't know if this is a trend of the world, but people are actually trying to emulate us. When you think about it, the whole world is trying to create a tropical environment. If you go and look at architecture and you look at hotels, especially hotels, they all look, wow, where is that? And you think to yourself, oh, that looks like the Caribbean, and you realize, oh, that's not the Caribbean, that's that's China, or I'm just saying, it's amazing how the architecture of the Caribbean has kind of spread worldwide because people just love the feel of it. So I didn't want to lose that. I want us to embrace it. So we re-looked at the building designs. And we looked at hospitality construction and design because we felt that they had it right. They are inviting people into their lobbies. They're creating these spaces. So for us, that was our kind of moment of looking at the project again, looking at the design again, looking at how to make it special, but how to make it unique to Cayman. So moving forward, we're looking now, as I said, at the exciting stuff because it's the physical and it's so exciting. It's the actual construction. So we'll be, as I said, pre-qualifying tenders for the project. We are at 75% working drawings. Now that's large. Keeping in mind that about 65% of your drawings are going to go to building control, and the rest are for the details of construction. So we're actually now at coordination phase within the design side. So that's where everybody overlays their drawings on top of each other to make sure there are no conflicts, and there always are, but they try their best. Yeah. And so our building control submission is this month, and but that. We've met with building control, and our goal is to do a foundation permit, which allows us to do everything up to foundation, which is the site works. And there's quite a lot of site works to be done, filling the site and that sort of thing. So we're hoping that in November, that's when you'll see that hugely move forward. for our red card, which will come, hopefully 2 to 3 months after that. We're open for 2, which puts us right at the beginning of the year, actually coming out of the ground, if you would. So foundations, now we're building the actual, floor, the buildings themselves, and then we'll be flowing, hopefully, from building to building to building. Our plan is to keep building for the next 20 years. Right. And so it's the beginning of... and it's about doing it right, as you said. We want to ensure that everybody that has an opportunity to bid the project, that can do it, the right people do the job, and we have a very good team first.
Exactly. And as you shared, this is a build over decades, not just something over months. Listening to you have the commercial space, the residential, the hospitality. In terms of programming and building, will it be all flowing almost simultaneously, or are you going to build out maybe one phase of hospitality and then residential and then commercial, or is it commercial? How do you...
It's fully phased. We actually have met with planning to understand that 20-year phasing as well, so that they can understand our direction. So the first phase is 250,000 square feet, but it's broken down into sub-phases. So we build 2 buildings at a time. That's a sub-phase. So first buildings are under construction, and then we'll move to, I call that the gateway, because those are the buildings that people will see when they come into the site. So this is kind of our gateway section. At the same time, our second phase is the lake. As I said, it's a huge endeavor to build a lake and to create an island, as I said, that a river will run in and all that kind of stuff. So that's our second phase. And there's about 150,000 square feet of buildings on that. There's an island designed in there. And then the third phase is the city center, which is the remaining kind of 500,000 square feet of office space. So keeping in mind, on the other side of the fence, you're 100% right. We have residential designed into the master plan. And as a part of our phase 2, we would like to start looking at that residential. I don't know what will go first, because I've always seen this as a project that we can share, not a project that just belongs to Cayman Enterprise City, not a project. It's a project for Cayman. So we'll be looking at all the local providers, or let's look at it this way, our local developers. They're good at this stuff. They're good at building, residential projects. We'd like to work with them to look at these projects, because it makes no sense of us. We have a lot to do on our own side of the fence, but I've designed it in because it's needed. I think, it's something that people will appreciate, and it will make a community, instead of make a city as we've tried to do, but more of a community instead of just an office park, if you would. And we never set out to do that. That was never our intention from the beginning. It's always been a campus of like-minded people that could live and work. And we see Cayman as housing the live part, So it's not just us. All the developments around us. We have the Vela on one side of us. You can imagine all the other developments that could come from this area just based on CEC sitting here. And we would like to work with them. We'd like to help to make sure that we're all tied together.
Right. Yeah, as we talk about Cayman Enterprise City, you share Grand Cayman, but the Cayman Islands in general, relatively small, accessible. You talked earlier about the roads, and as people start to appreciate it, those roundabouts there are just what our fathers and forefathers used to talk about, making provision. You put us here down the road, you'll be able to use it, but you made provision now, so that you don't have to come back and undo and redo. You can just get to it if and when you need it. But that's vision and foresight.
Exactly, and I think that Cayman's one of the few places that actually has it. We all sit back sometimes and we don't like it takes so long to get from A to B, which I agree. It's sometimes very frustrating for all of us to see the length of time it takes to get, through all the things we have to get through before we actually can put a development. But can you imagine if we didn't have this foresight, if we didn't have the planning, if we didn't have all of the, what would we be like in the future? And you can look at countries, you can go and visit them on your vacations and realize, okay, these guys didn't think this out. You can see it right off the bat. There's terrible traffic, there's a lot of things. We really do have to look to the future, and this planning is important. And I think, and I support it. I've always supported the planning department here, and it's a challenge to be given such a very heavy burden, which is the Cayman Islands planning, planning our future.
What is it? We're told to, cut our sales according to cloth, but was it, measure twice, cut once? Maybe some of us should, remember that it's not cut twice, measure none. But it's exciting, as you shared, just for the calls off here to talk Cayman Enterprise City, sort of from Fairbanks is where you, build probably into, but it's also off the Linford Pearson is called? Agnes? Yeah.
Off of the Agnes Way, Linford Pearson kind of intersection, which is that roundabout. Right. I actually don't know the name of the development that's there.
Yeah, but it's right there.
Right there.
And that's when we're looking at.
That's one of them, as I said. But our first will be off of Fairbanks.
Off Fairbanks.
That comes straight into, and it's this because it was the closest, fastest way to get to our site.
But we all go by that site, to and from schools in the mornings. University.
I think it's a great location,
yeah.
And as the infrastructure kind of gets built around this area, there's a lot planned for South Sound, not just residential, but there's a lot planned, new supermarkets, new things that are happening in this area. So I think that the timing is perfect for not only Cayman Enterprise City to start, but for other developments in the area.
Yeah, I mean we've probably all have our views in relation to what Cayman could and should look like, what we could and should do as policymakers, politicians, and investors, developers, and the like. And maybe this, holistic view, this time, that you spent, I believe, productive, constructively, appropriately, thinking about, what is this going to be over 20 years, 30 years, but beyond. These buildings are going to be there for, hopefully, for a long time.
I think one of the things I'll jump in here is exciting about the project is being able to incorporate, looking at the future, but also incorporating the next generation. I know Cindy was sharing her knowledge this summer with a young intern, and I think that would be such an exciting experience for a young Caymanian to go into Cindy's office and pick her brains and, figure out the work behind all of this to make this project come to reality.
Summer's my favorite time of the year. I always get lots of students in.
Lots of students.
Yeah.
Inspiring minds, man, and great things.
Yeah, and I guess being so close to the schools, it'll be great for all these internship opportunities in the future and to be able to connect these young individuals with some of the companies that are going to establish themselves.
Well, it's, I'm reminded often of many of us, decades ago, talking about Cayman could potential to create a research triangle. We look at other parts of the world that have technology-based sort of infrastructure and environment and businesses that are economies of their own, larger than some of the wealthier nations, and yet we have this thing here that we're doing. So you're looking at, the hospitality, the residential, the commercial, all merging. And I know you said PAD, and for some of us, as a plan of year development, we probably don't appreciate the acronyms at times, but this is a huge project, over 53 acres, 2 decades. But Cindy, if you call me,
you'll
a
keep
big
me busy.
fan.
That's the goal. I've always felt that having the vision of the company or having the passion. I have the best job. I don't have to worry about all the little stuff. I'm worrying about all the big stuff, if you would. But it's exciting, and it's the type of thing that does you wake up every morning with a smile on your face. Well, I do anyway, and I hope that we can include the Cayman Islands in that.
Well, I say this as at outset, I repeat it. I commend you for being willing to come to the public through the media. We will always provide opportunity here, because as a community, this is going to affect us, but we could also affect it positively. So we know what's going on. You guys have been very open and sharing what you're thinking of, where you're going to put your campus, the timeline, and the like. And who knows? Not just that school leaving now, who may be owning one of the businesses in here, but who may be one of the contractors, so to speak, and whether it's the residential or one of the other commercial areas. Hey, you've got to be invested in our communities, because we're going to be affected by it, so we should try to impact it as well, right?
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. That's the nice thing, that both Charlie and I we're invested in Cayman because this is our home. There's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, it's going to be, and that I am, very grateful. And certainly, through your marketing manager, anytime that we can help to give the public a chance to, either ask a question or seek clarification, just reach out to us. Perhaps first, Ms. Caitlin and Ms. Cindy, any maybe parting thoughts you may want to leave with us?
I think you did a great job
She
summarizing.
did.
Yeah, both of you. It was amazing to hear. I love hearing about all the little details and all the, beautiful integrations that's happening with this project. But I guess if you're interested in getting involved, you can definitely reach out to us. Our website is CaymanEnterpriseCity.com, and you'll find our contact details there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We're open, and we'd love to have a chat with you.
All right. Miss Cindy, anytime.
I was actually going to say that Caitlin over here is an artist. I don't know if you guys know that. She's an artist, and we are embracing kind of Caymanians' point of view in art. In fact, the young lady that came in for this summer, she was quite talented, and I set her to work to design artwork that will be going into one of our locations, because I do believe that that's what brings the sense of place as well. So I just wanted to point out that sometimes it's not just the technical stuff that's cool; it's the artistic stuff as well, and we want to embrace both.
But there you go, man. You merge both and you see outcomes. But thank you not only for sharing the design aesthetic with us, the vision, obvious passion for it, and I trust it'll be successful in every which way.
Well, thank you.
All right. Miss Cindy O'Hara, Miss Caitlin Elphinstone, as we talk about Cayman Pride City. We'll pause down and take a break, go to our news. It looks like it's going to be some open lines, so does that mean I'm going to get licks? We'll see. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
With your latest headlines, I'm April Cummings. Government releases the results of an internal audit into overtime at the Department of Environmental Health. The audit was requested by Ministry of Health Chief Officer Jennifer Ahern after the department exhausted its personnel budget more than 3 months before the end of the financial year. The report made 11 recommendations. We'll have more at 6. In international news, Amazon is boosting its minimum wage for all U.S. workers to $15 per hour starting next month and says it will be pushing for an increase in the federally mandated minimum wage, which now stands at $7.25 an hour. The wage hike comes at a time when Amazon needs to hire holiday workers amid the tightest job market in nearly 2 decades, making it more difficult to lure workers who have a lot more job choices than they did just a year ago. About half of young Americans expect to be financially better off than their parents. That's according to a new poll, and a sign that the dream of upward mobility is alive but somewhat tempered. The Associated Press Nork Center for Public Affairs Research and MTV poll found that half of 15 to 26-year-olds think they will eventually be better off than their parents in terms of household finances. About 29% expect to do as well as their parents, and 20% expect to be worse off. Parents, on the other hand, were slightly more optimistic. 60% think their children will do better than they did. A ferry with some 300 people on board was stranded in the Baltic Sea today after the ship's engine failed and sent smoke pouring from the engine room. While passengers assembled at muster stations to prepare for the possibility of evacuation, the situation was reportedly under control and the evacuation deemed not necessary. There were no reports of injuries. Those are your headlines. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, I'm April Cummings.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
The 2018 Fall Labor Force Survey is currently being conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office ESO. The LFS collects data on the employed and unemployed persons. Trained interviewers with ESO ID cards will visit the randomly selected households in all districts. The interviews are confidential in accordance with the statistics law. No individual data will be published or disclosed. Survey data are exempt from freedom of information. For more details, please call the ESO hotline at 516-3329.
This weekend,
Cayman Up Close, a weekly special feature from Radio Cayman News.
I'm Shanda Gallego.
Shanda Gallego goes behind the scenes with Cayman's newsmakers, artists, and emerging talent to get their unique and personal experience, their real story.
This week, we turn the spotlight.
Sundays at noon, 6:10 p.m. and 10:10 p.m. and always online at radiocayman.gov.ky. Tune in for Cayman Up Close.
Cayman Up Close, brought to you by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands for over 40 years.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's new kitchen and bath center.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for joining us here on this, truly terrific Tuesday as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. It's going to be open line, 949-8037, or you can call us toll free at 1-800-534-8255. Now, for those of you who want to be a part of a discussion, I certainly invite you to share your thoughts with us, and we can talk about anything. Must share. It's only Tuesday, and I'm truly honored, feel privileged to have been able to have the opportunity just in this last, day, yesterday, and part of today thus far, to speak with a number of individuals, some as an organized group, others as just one or two together with a particular thought. And our questions shared have been sort of, from three perspectives. This whole issue of education and what are we doing about education? Why is government still in education? Why doesn't government, understand that its role is to make sure that we have minimum national standards, and those standards that are across the board, but leave education to educators, and if they are through a public system, that there's great autonomy, but that autonomy comes with significant accountability that rests in the hands of the stakeholders, the parents who can challenge and champion as necessary, the teachers and administration, so there's not this hierarchy of untouchables, and secondly, students held accountable but equally can contribute and can help to direct their own education. The other pressing issue was the idea of our cost of living and the finance and the behavior of some of our banking institutions in the country. And then the third thing was this continuing quality of life. Many have suggested that as a country we're ignoring the seemingly constant daily reports of crime against people, crime against property, just the behavior. Now, one fellow reminded me that he had shared a long time ago. I think he said it 3 times, he might have said it 4, but he was stressing it very slowly, very deliberately, that he was questioning whether some of the reports of people being robbed in the streets, whether they were legit. Now, he was very quick to say he wasn't dismissing that it isn't happening, hasn't happened, but he was wondering, was it as frequent? Now, we've seen in the courts that there have been an instance or two where people have made false reports about being robbed and attacked and the like. Now, he shared, we shouldn't dismiss that people need to be safe in this community. If they're out exercising, if they're out just for a little leisurely stroll to clear the air, maybe they decided to go out that evening and instead of perhaps driving, they feel that they're sufficiently close to where they were out, whether it was at the gym somewhere or maybe it was from work, that they're going to walk. Now, he shared that he recalled having an opportunity to be seconded to an office overseas, and it wasn't very often that you would, depending on the time of year, you would be able to go out and enjoy the night air. And when it was almost seemed like the whole little city was out. Now, in Cayman, the opposite is true. There's very little time when you really couldn't go out because the weather is always so nice. But not many of us do it for different reasons. But it shouldn't be that we're starting to feel unsafe And he's saying that is exactly what is happening. That is the perception that is being sort of created amongst not just those who have come here recent, but even some who have been here for a while, who are saying, "Man, I remember when I could, sleep with my windows open and doors, unlocked, or, not worry about my car." Now that's not seemingly the case, and to make excuses is not enough. So what are we doing about it as a country? Certainly, he believes giving the police their adequate resources is important, but should not, be the only way to address this issue and leave it for the police only. What about the rest of us? Are we harboring, known felons or people who have committed some act, irrespective of how serious we may think it is? If our society is willing to turn a blind eye to accommodate a misbehavior, then what do we expect will happen down the road? Not unlike what many talk about the broken windows. You ignore this little thing, this little thing becomes this other thing, that becomes this other thing that's compounded, and eventually becomes this big thing. Not just because they're collected, compounded, but because, you ignore the small thing, now the big thing is right before you. So what are we doing about that? The other issue with respect to some of the alleged practices of some of the banks, a small number of you, recently have shared your experiences with some of the instances of the banks. Now, a couple have said, listen, their banks have been really, really patient and understanding and accommodating. They understand that, yes, because of job loss or reduced hours, things were difficult. But he said back then, interest rates were historically low and there were problems. Now the rates are on the way up. It almost seems like every month, every quarter, there's an announcement of a rate increase in relation to mortgages and the cost of borrowing. Will we see more foreclosures? His concern was that, he has had a couple of instances where he felt from what his employees were sharing, knowing that he had an instance way back when there was a downturn in the economy, his banks here were very willing to work with him. He was able to get through a rough patch, but he knew how difficult it was, having to make payroll, he himself having to make sure that his own, living expenses in relation to his mortgage payments and loans and the like for his personal, capacity, as well as for the business, were, able to meet those obligations. And then to have that added burden of employees, and when he had to, lay off a few, he knew what that meant for them. But for those, who were with their banks and struggling, and now he says, he has a couple of employees who have relayed stories of not just increased fees, not just the challenges of, the sort of day-to-day banking, but the instances and the allegations that it seems increasingly that perhaps some of the things that people have shared in the past may in fact not have just been stories where they've alleged that it would seem that somewhere along the line, whether those in the real estate sector or whether those within the banking or otherwise, are colluding somehow to, capitalize on the people who have fallen behind their mortgages to advance in the foreclosure process, and as a result, causing people to lose their homes. Now, he says, in his business, if his customers, after they've received the product or service he's provided, if they don't pay him and they don't pay him in a timely manner, that could affect his cash flow. So he understands you're in the business to make money because you have obligations. You want a return on your investment as well, but you also have to pay your staff and pay your own suppliers and meet your obligations. Banks are no different, irrespective of our perspective. But he wonders if there have, been any merit at all to the allegations where it would seem that someone somewhere in the bank, as has perhaps been alleged, many years ago, as may have been alleged recently and perhaps has been alleged now, that it seems that a person falls on hard times, gets behind in the mortgage payments, and not only is the car repossessed, but so is the apartment, the house, the land, that property that they've been paying for so long. Is there a recourse? Is this happening now? Maybe it's one-off. Maybe it's in some cases where the bank has just said, you know what, you're a bad paymaster and we've had enough of you, so the sooner we get you off our books, the better for us because you're costing us more. But in the end, if a person is genuinely trying, are banks genuinely trying to assist? Now, do they have that sort of corporate ethic to do so, or is it strictly, well, show me the bottom line? Now, he shares that there's much literature to indicate that the corporate governance, the whole corporate model has changed significantly from what you may have seen in the 30s, 40s, and 50s to what you're seeing in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and perhaps even now in the 2000s, where the banks and businesses in general are more concerned about the bottom line, the profit. Perhaps the whole compensation package is simply geared towards the better that the business does in terms of share price and its profits, the better the senior management does, and they can cut costs by doing a lot more with a lot less staff, maybe with reducing certain services. Perhaps that is what is driving it. Maybe their businesses no longer have to be good corporate citizens. Perhaps he says we don't hear that as much as we did in the past. But what is your thought? And what has been your experience? And perhaps what is your perspective? Hey, share with us at 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Now, the other issue, and certainly it's for you to share if you want, is this whole notion of the port development, the expenditure of our governments in relation to its infrastructure and capital works, to the need, if any, for governments to be able to have not just the tacit but the explicit, consent and approval of its people. Or is it, as a fellow shared with me just prior to coming on air, he said, we have this notion that we are, a democratic country, so we go to the polls and we elect a government. They decide that they're going to move forward with something, and he gave us an example, the port. Now, when they decided, for whatever reason, there is perhaps some level of objection. Is it a significant number? Is it a small vocal minority? But if that gains traction, or if it serves to derail the process, then should that be allowed? You have your government in the day. If they're not doing anything illegal, should they not be allowed to move forward? Now, that's his perspective. What is yours? Do you think that a public, irrespective of how a government comes to power, if the public decides, well, wait a minute, we're not quite sure we fully understand this particular thing, we're not quite sure that we, recognize the full cost, the economic and other costs of this thing, so before we go to a stage where we can't turn back, maybe we need to get a say. Is that through a referendum? Is that through a series of public meetings in order to allay those fears? Now, to that point, does that mean that we as a people, whether we're voters or otherwise, that we're prepared to get the information, to sift through it ourselves, to get into our groups, whether it's within our families and communities, whether it's in our other civic and civil organizations, and be able to constructively evaluate? Now, if we're prepared to get that level of participation, then we can truly have a democracy. We see, for instance, some countries around the globe deciding that they need to be able to determine their future, so they put something to a public vote. That vote may or may not be binding. It may or may not be through a referendum. But what is the participation of the electorate? Is it the 50% plus that is required in some constitutions, or is it just a measly, 5, 10, 15, maybe as much as 20%? And would that be sufficient to bind us? Now, are we a people who are going to ensure that we are informed and involved, and as a result, when we see that the government decides to pursue a particular course of action, again, let's use the port as an example, and we are prepared to say, yep, this is the path that should be taken, are we going to get on board with it and make sure? Or if we say, no, we're not quite sure this is the best timing, this is the best way to spend those funds, or we're lacking some information, that we can very responsibly but very constructively get involved with the public discourse and have an informed decision. Now, if we're not, then do we point fingers? And if we do, is that the respectful, responsible thing to do? And if we decide, well, it doesn't seem like those that be in a position of authority, whether it's the elected, appointed, or otherwise, if they're not heeding what it is seemingly the populace is sharing, where do we go from there? But beyond that, are we sufficiently prepared to take the requisite time to become informed so that we can become actively engaged and involved and be able to very constructively make our contributions? Now, having said that, and I say it specifically because there have been a number of young individuals. I put those in the category of high school, post-high school, and college, and just a few years post-college, as it were, who are seemingly more involved and invested and interested in what is happening in our society, to the extent that they have now been asking questions. And some of the questions that they have asked are questions that I don't believe have been asked sufficiently, have been asked publicly, or in cases, unfortunately, have been answered. And I think it's not just because they see that this thing is going to affect them, whatever this is. Now, specifically, it's been in relation to the port. It isn't just that it's going to be over decades and may cost tens of millions or hundreds of millions, whatever that sum is. Not just because potentially it could have an environmental impact, but they're seeing that this thing is going to be something that is going to affect them while they're still, in their minds, very young, perhaps invincible, as it were, and may want to have an active say. They're now asking questions, and some of them have, as they've shared, felt as if they're being dismissed because maybe they're not old enough yet to vote, or they're not registered voters, or they haven't as yet sort of earned any stripes to gain in the minds of some in a level of credibility and the like. But with the greatest respect to any of us who may think that way, I have a simple view. These are our individuals, and if they're prepared to be actively engaged, we should be mindful that if it was us in that position, would we want to be dismissed, or would we want to have an audience to at least feel as if we can ask a question, be entitled to a truthful answer that is given in a timely manner. Now, when I see these young people sharing these views and asking these questions, it's refreshing, it's encouraging, it's inspiring. And for those of us who are apt to point fingers and maybe find it easier to take pot shots at whether it's the politician or whether it's some other person offering up some perspective, are we doing it in a way that allows us to not only garner some sort of consensus, but to create that environment that has set the bar such that we're looking for healthy dialogue in our society? You tell me. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. You can WhatsApp 925-3261. And as we look at any of these issues, what is important to you? Now, the other instance that some have shared that has been somewhat alarming, but at the same token, it seems that some of you are very sort of quite waiting to see, well, hey, will this come to pass? It's the whole issue of what is going to happen to, the waste management system that we were talking about, and what are the potential costs of us moving forward with this project. A young lady gave us a perspective that, we're not hearing enough about this. This could be, she says, because there are other very, pressing, almost urgent discussion in relation to the port. But she thought, the Georgetown landfill, whether we move it or don't move it, whether we redevelop it, the fact that we're talking that this could be, a $500 million project over its lifetime, does it have to cost that amount? She should ask. Equally, she shared, where are the, sort of comments from the public in relation to what is it we're going to do, when are we going to do it, how are we going to do it, and why there isn't a constant sort of review of what's going on. So we'll be involved as much as we can. It's open line, 949-8837 or 1-800-534-8255. Let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Sterling.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you today?
Good. I know you had guests on earlier, and I was busy, so I didn't get to hear what you were talking about. So you have open line now?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Good. And you were saying a few things there, and you said something in regards of you have something on your mind you want to talk about. Am I correct?
Sorry, I just ask the question again because for some reason it echoed.
Did you say if you have something on your mind you can talk about it?
Oh, yeah. It's for you. Yes, sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Carolyn, the old glass house.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hear what the outcome of that's going to be. It's just sitting there as a story to the whole island and the people and the visitors. Sort of wondering what the scoop of that glass house is all about, to be redone or taken down or what the case may be. Also, we had the tower building, right? That piece of property been there for some time, and the taxis would try to go in there and do a seal. They call it a seal of park, right? And they go and put all these yellow barriers out there now, and they got some security in there. They're letting some cars park in there. I heard it was something to do with Port Authority. I'm not fully sure because I really don't work out there to that effect on the street, especially. So what I'm trying to say is, you imagine, here we are, want to build a port, and the taxi drivers that don't come to the compound, or some of them do come to the compound and they get a crazy number, they go and they jump the street, and you can't blame them. So they have nowhere to park. So if they go steal a park here and there, they're being run by a security in the front of the visitors and the taxi drivers, and then we'll get in some different types of words and so forth. You understand? Is that's not really good for the visitors when they come in here to explore our island. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to say is, we need to fix up what we have here in Cayman before we talk about building a dock. They say we already have a dock downtown Georgetown. Sure, the cruise ship's been coming there from day one. And yes, the cargo dock is there. Please, forgive me. I know all of that. The fact remains, the government was running for election 2 years ago, and they went down to Spot Street and opened our parking lot. And they have not been back there to do anything down there at that Spot Street. And many other little beaches. And you got visitors coming from the 7 Mile as far as Rum Point and Morris Tortuga in the Wyndham down to the Spot Dock. It's not even proper to walk on. It is so bumpy and so forth and so forth. And to say this, we as the Caymanians, we talk about taking back Cayman. I want to know who is out there is willing to come out and help take Cayman back. Because right now we got something going on in regards to trying to get enough signatures about this port. And when the election is on, people come out with their wheelchairs, they come out with their canes, they bum a ride, and they go to these meetings. But now that something is going on to help save a piece of our island, now they want people to come to their house to get a signature. It's all good and well, but the fact remains is we as Caymanians, that we call ourselves Caymanians, we don't stick together. And if this port can't bring Cayman together, I don't think anything else will bring us together in this island again. And Sterling, I want to say, I met a lady the boy yesterday in the grocery store, and she called out my name so loud that I was a little bit embarrassed to an extent, And she called me my full name, and I went to school with her, and she said, "Oh, girl, I've been dying to see you." I said, "What happened?" She said, "When I hear you on the radio, all I can do is praise to you because you are for the Cayman people." I said, "Well, I'm not here to take any praises, but, I have to do what I have to do." She said that she is sick. When she went to need assessment for help and took everything from the doctor's note down to that office, and they didn't call her back after a period of time. She decided to go in, and they told her that they couldn't help her because she has a pension coming in. She said that one of the MLA's family members in Boston even told her to stop calling the ambulance. The lady is sick. And I told her, I said, baby, if you need that ambulance 5 times a week, you call them, because that's what they're there for. You call them. Because when you drop down there, the first thing I say, oh, I wish I had checked on her. I wish I had met by the visitor today. That's the Cayman time. That's the Cayman time. So, Sterling, this need assessment. They got people on there year in and year out. They were just doing upgrading just a couple of months ago. And I can promise you, I don't think one-third of those people came off of that list. More was added. We got tons of kids in school, and they are on the government program to have lunch. It is a shame to know that we people that work on this island. This woman worked Georgetown for years. I have road busted her from Georgetown, dropped off at Newlands, and she gone on to Bordentown. And because of today, she needs some help. She was turned down. She walks to the Keene. She has a bad knee. She got sugar problem. And she said all she wanted was just a few months of help to help bring her out of what she was in. And not even that was granted to my own Caymanian. And when you go to need assessment, you drive across there, you'll see the young man downstairs with 2 phones and a young lady going upstairs. I took a lady down to one of the restaurants down some months ago, and I deliberately saw that with my own eyes. She stayed downtown, down the bottom, sat down, cleared his 2 phones, and she going upstairs looking for help. And another thing, where need assessment is located, you're going to back up on the bar entrance, a restaurant entrance, and a gift shop entrance before you can get into need assessment. You want to tell me the government don't take more of us than they put us in that situation? What encouragement is that to go up to need assessment to look some help? And you look at a bar room. A kitchen is okay to get some food to eat, but bar room and a t-shirt store, you probably could get a job if you go and ask to one. But what I'm trying to say is, Sterling, we the people of this island, there's places here that is so run down. I do not know how people can go and look for votes every 4 years and forget who gave them the vote. Their yards are despicable. Their living quarters are despicable. They were not in good health. And these people go back to them every 4 years looking vote and have a party or a giveaway, a $50 gift certificate for them to go put towards some little baby bills at CUC. Hey, my light bill alone, as a single person, $200. So I don't know how $50 can help me at CUC. No disrespect to anyone. But I want to say, those people that don't need assessment, that doesn't need assessment, they need to get off of it. And it's only government can take them off. Because government is not going out to see how they're living and what they're doing. They're on the flight. They're living life. They can change their car. They can do this and they can do that. But yet every month they're looking for need assessment, check to come in the mail or go to the bank and select the money. It is unfair to our Caymanians when we desperately need help and talk about pension. Sterling, if I live long enough and get retired from government, my pension might be $200. And I told that young lady, if I live, and that's what my pension is, believe me, I will be sleeping at need assessment door until they help me or call the police, throw me in jail, because I'm going to go every day till they help me. And I told that lady, go back, don't give up. That's what they want us to do, give up. And we Caymanians, we are so easy to give up. We are so narrow-minded, the low mentality and the jealousy that we have against other people. Somebody said to me, you imagine a nationality from our neighboring country is living the life in Cayman that a Cayman is supposed to be living. Can you imagine? And I believe it's true. I believe it's true.
Well, what do we do then? I mean,
what do we do? Mm-hmm. What do we do? We need to close down need assessment, and we need to rewrap the whole government. Because we got about 19 members now. Things, better. I heard someone say the other day. And there's a taxi driver and it's on West. This government has done more than the Makeba Bush done. And I didn't know what Makeba did, and I didn't know what this government doing. But I said to him, really? Really? So I just think that we need to really get serious if we want a part of Cayman again. And if we, the people of this island, don't want to stay Hawkseye Day, and I think the rest of you all need to do what the rest of us packing and going to England and leave the rest of the foreigners here and the two little Caymanians who want to live here and be drowned in the years to come. And I always want to say to the government, you make sure that when you sign that contract, if the people don't win, you make sure that you put a swimming lesson out for every person who live on this so small island that they can swim, and hope that England gets in here with their warship to pick all of us up.
Well, it's something that, as you shared, we perhaps look at it more closely. Anything else finally you want to share with us?
Well, a lot more to say, but you know how it is. I'll let you go and do your break right now.
Well, always feel invited to share your thoughts with us. And as the call is shared, yes, we will pause and take a break. I think there's a call in the queue, Ms. Susan. When we come back, do we take the call or go to the... Let's take the call. What? This is a good day. It's a Tuesday. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Very blessed and thankful. How about yourself?
I'm okay. Just waiting for the rain to stop one little bit so I can see how to drive. That was an excuse. I'm sitting up here in the airport park, waiting for the next plane to come in. That was an excuse. That's my pastime. Anyway, God bless you, Jan. You said what was the truth, and you said what was on your mind, and God bless you. Yes, Makiwa used to do something for West Bay, but as the longest-serving member and a representative of West Bay, I think he forgot West Bay. I think he did, because I've been begging and I've been preaching and I've been asking for a multi-purpose hall in West Bay like everybody else, not using the school hall for everything that we have to do, including emergency hall when Ivan hit us. Now it's many years since Ivan, and we still haven't done anything. We have 4 representatives, and God only knows. If he had none, it would still be the same. We got 4, and we still are the same. So I don't know what are they doing. If money has been wasted, just giving them salary to do what? Because I don't see anything in West Bay to say it's West Bay. It's West Bay. That's West Bay stuff. Not a whole lot of cement buildings and things that is now looking like big cities. New York, Chicago, Hong Kong. It's not looking like an island anymore. People not coming in this island to see what they left behind, but we just going ahead. We're working at the airport, and we said the reason why we don't have, or we're not getting jetways right now, is because we want to leave it like a Cayman look or a Caribbean look. Really? But in the meantime, we have planning, which planning can't do anything unless the ministers of planning say, yes, you can, this is what you're supposing to do. Giving people permission to build all kinds of 10-story buildings on a piece of land that they would not allow us to even build a house. And if we build a house, somehow or another they can find fault, and you can't move in this house. So I'm wondering, where are we going with all of this? Where? We're telling our children, get as much education as you can get, because no one can take that away from you. That is all true. We sometimes we work ourselves to pieces educating our children. And what has happened? What has happened? Some of them say, no. Cayman is no longer for us. We're gone. And they leave. Is that right? for our own educated children, not children anymore. It's our children, but they're now adults to leave this island, their home, while somebody else that do not know anything about Cayman, they're not interested to know something about Cayman. I know that for a fact. I work with some of those people. They here 8, 9, 10 years and haven't even been to West Bay. This little small island that you can drive from one end to the next in an hour on a good day. And now we're going to congest it more with ports. Why not build what I said in West Bay, a multipurpose hall? Why not get a shelter, a place for the mentally ill to go and or to be there, that they can be treated, they can feel part of society. Why not get the things that we badly need, like attention to the environment, especially the dump? Because we have ships coming in here. We do not need mega ships. I tell you, if you see mega ships coming in here, believe me, the people that got small businesses are going to be totally left out. They think they can get more business. That's a joke, because the people that got bigger businesses, they can just add more and cut the little small man out. Even though it's the small man that's trying to push this, because they don't know what they're talking about. They really don't. But, life goes on, and I thank God for every day of my life, because He closed my eyes, and He can keep them closed, but He opens them every day, and I thank God for it. Dwayne, I thank Jan very much, because she's passionate for what she's talking about. She's feeling it out there. She sees it out there every day. And I think many, many, many more. Government could work at good customer service. Small businesses could work to get their businesses going really well. Better customer service in every place to be returned. Don't have it to say that people have to come in here and show us what customer service is all about. Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Susan, and may God continue to bless these islands of ours. People, don't forget meeting at Northside Civic Center this evening, and tomorrow too, and Thursday too. Thank you, Dwayne. God bless.
God bless. Thank you too for sharing. With that, we'll pause quickly and take a short break. But when we come back, we'll continue with some more open line. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Money Sense, bringing an informed financial perspective to the Cayman community. Brought to you by the CFA Society Cayman Islands and sponsored by One Trade X. Join Money Sense this Thursday at 7:30 a.m. as we discuss globalization with a world expert on monetary matters. What is globalization? Why did it start? And has it been good for Cayman and the wider world? Tune in exclusively to Radio Cayman this Thursday as we discuss globalization. Follow the conversation and tweet us your questions at Money Sense Radio. Money Sense, the only personal finance radio show in the Cayman Islands, brought to you with the support of One Trade X.
Tune in to Radio Cayman every morning at 7:20 a.m. for your daily weather update. Proudly brought to you by Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. With over 47 years of experience, they'll get the job done for you on time. Free estimate. Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. Call them at 949-4709 for a free estimate. King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. It is Open Line. We invite you to call and share your thoughts with us as we go to our phones. Hey, welcome. You're on Talk Today. Hello, good afternoon. All right.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hey, my friend, how are you today?
Okay, Dwayne.
All right, man.
Well, speaking about the construction that's going on the island, or islands, and I think government has been, for too long now, been giving away too much concessions.
Right, okay.
What they need to do now is collect those concessions, especially while there's a lot of construction going on.
So what do we do? Let us hear from you.
Yes. Collect those concessions and start building trade schools for young people. Then all the construction in the future that comes up, our young people can build those places. We can start with one in Georgetown and one in Bordentown, in order for everybody from West Bay and East End to be able to also reach those trade schools by bus or however they need to get there. And then, as the funds get more, we can build one in West Bay and one in East End. Because as the future, you know, the population will get bigger, which means you'll have more young people living in our country. And I think it's only fair to them that when they see all this construction going on, that they're the ones that are building it. Thank you very much, Dwayne.
All right, thank you for sharing that. And as the caller shares, maybe you want to weigh in, give us your thoughts with respect to just generally speaking. How do we look at education in relation to, as he calls it, trade schools, technical and vocational? Is it, as some have shared, that we need to be encouraging more? We know, I believe, Honorable Premier had said, there's going to be an increased number of students, perhaps even, 60%? That was a significant number. Is it, like others have shared, that when in our education system, that these are some of the skill sets that we should have across the board so that our people have a working knowledge, some of those life skills in relation to when they look at a car? Well, can they change an oil in the tire? Can they balance a checkbook? Are they looking at these careers not only from the perspective of the absolute necessity, but the respect that they, should garner? Being a plumber, electrician, or carpenter is a skill, something that can be taught, but is also something that some of us are innately better at than others, maybe because of exposure and introduction. But are we still respectful of those professions? Now, others have shared that as we look at, say, electricians and plumbers and auto mechanics and marine engineers and the like, that when you show that, as one fellow who says that he always gets frustrated, with his colleagues in the teaching profession, he said there is an academic component to these professions. He's been adamant, he says, not calling them trades. These are professions, vocations, things that require great skill and intellect. He recalls, an uncle, he says, back in his country of birth, who not only was very smart intellectually, had, great qualifications, but who could look at things and, with his hands and tinker and build sometimes out of what seemingly were things that were discarded and make the engines run again. Not just, that innovative, but also that intellectual approach. But had he not understood the math and the science that went into it, perhaps he wouldn't have garnered the respect. Now, people, he says, sometimes are taught differently and they learn differently. But we need to make sure that they have the credentials that they too can gain respect locally. But as they travel internationally, whether for employment or to be presenters at conventions or trade shows or other similar things that we see people in other professions do, why can't we have those from here? He shares, for instance, Caymanians talk about their seafaring heritage and that captain who may have come on the ship as a messman and then eventually retires as a sea captain, working his way up the ranks, demonstrated not only that technical proficiency, that ability to command the ship and lead the crew, but the academic ability to sit the test, to be able to demonstrate, whether it was a verbal, oral, or otherwise test, not only his physical, his technical skills, but also his academic skills. How do we get to that point? Well, he says if we did it, on the world's largest vessels of the day, surely we must do it equally with our electricians, plumbers, carpenters, those individuals who not only can, pull the wires in our homes and connect it up, but equally perhaps can be very innovative as we look at alternative technologies and the like. He believes part of the challenge is that sometimes as parents, we don't see that a child who is doing that, as a career, not only the money, and there is, he says, a lot of money that can and is being made by plumbers and electricians and auto mechanics and the like, but also the absolute necessity of having those skill sets within your own body of people. Now, you come home from an office environment, maybe your paycheck is 6 or 7 figures, and you may feel a level of stress. But if you come home and your office, was that new, commercial or residential or hospitality development, and instead of, looking at papers that you've moved around and signed and authored and documented and other like, maybe you were pulling wires or laying pipe or doing other things. Certainly one isn't any more important than the other. If it was, he believes it's the latter, certainly not the former of the paper pushers. Let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dwayne.
Hey, my friend, how are you today, man?
I'm just listening to the conversations,
Yes, man. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, man. People, they shouldn't really get frustrated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because how they need to realize it. It's like they plan it this way, People, or the people that's in charge,
mm-hmm.
they set it out to be this way. Or the people we vote, or whatever, the thing there, they go up there, and they talk, and they say they're going to do this, and they're going to do that. When they get in, all are gone. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then it's set out in these ways to keep us down here. Cayman people. Right? What they say we don't got no resources, but our environment or the thing that Mother Nature put here, that's one of our resources. And if you take that away from us, then right, you don't got nothing left. So that's why you see all the tricks of the trade of building a concrete house, and you're not allowed no cistern to collect your rainwater. You know what I mean? You're not allowed certain things. You're not allowed. It goes on it goes on by how government getting bigger on you, right? Where they tell you what you can do, but they don't show you what you really can do. They don't give you that opportunity. Okay, that's a system. You can't say that they're not smart enough that they don't see that they don't see what they're doing. You know, the insurance, all that is put there to make it that one little bit harder on a middle class family. You know? A middle class family or a family, a Caymanian family, is the biggest threat to the people that really want to do things to the different. Because the more Caymanian families you got, the more problems they have, you know, talking everybody into acting the same way. You know? Sometimes I can't believe it, but that's how it is.
Mm-hmm. When we look at Cayman sometimes, and as I listen to you, I recall a conversation on Thursday from an individual who was saying that it seems, on one hand, there is a growing mindset amongst the resident population that they need and want to get more actively involved with the politics of the day, whether it's in the policy decisions of the government, the projects that are being proposed, both in the public and in the private sector. But by the same token, when they're making a public comment, they're being castigated, and not just by opponents of their view, whether they're for the thing or opposed to the thing, but sometimes even within their own little circle of influence, their co-workers, their families, and the like, such that, and this is just from that one individual following the meeting on Wednesday, such that he's fearful that more and more people will just withdraw into their own shells and decide to, it doesn't make sense to say anything. What do you think?
That's right.
Yeah.
But that's how it's always been. It's not something out there that you can't say nothing. You can't really say nothing about the government without, that you could get prosecuted or something. Something out there you can't really mention anybody's name and anything like that, or any business name, something like that. When you hear that kind of thing like that really let you know that you're not free. You're not really free to say what you want to say, say what you got to say. And if you really think that you're gonna get up and work to pretend that you're free, I leave them alone. I really don't have nothing too much to try to talk to them, because I notice that you can't bargain with them. You can't talk to them. It's something to do with the ego. They can't admit that they're wrong. They can't admit that they were living a lie all the time. That was frightening. That was frightening to me still, that they got everybody living this dream of paradise, in paradise, and can't live like you actually in paradise. That don't make sense to me. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks very much for sharing that. And, what is your view? As we get ready to go to our 2 p.m. headline news, maybe you can weigh in and share your thoughts with us. Be first up to decide whether a democracy means that the people should allow the government, once duly elected, to get on with the business of the country. And when there's another election, well, if you approve what the government is doing, you give them the nod. If you disapprove, then you choose, something else. Or is it, as some are sharing, well, yes, we're going to go to the polls in a free and fair election, but if, during the term of office of a government, if on a particular project or on a series of actions, you don't think that this is the course, well, you need to weigh in before the government of the day does something that is irreversible. Is that your thoughts? Well, certainly share with us your views. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. We'll pause and take a break, go to our headline news, and when we come back, more Talk Today.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
With your latest headlines, I'm April Cummings. Government releases the results of an internal audit into overtime at the Department of Environmental Health. The audit was requested by Ministry of Health Chief Officer Jennifer Ahern after the department exhausted its personnel budget more than 3 months before the end of the financial year. The report made 11 recommendations. We'll have more at 6. In international news, Amazon is boosting its minimum wage for all U.S. workers to $15 per hour starting next month and says it will be pushing for an increase in the federally mandated minimum wage, which now stands at $7.25 an hour. The wage hike comes at a time when Amazon needs to hire holiday workers amid the tightest job market in nearly 2 decades, making it more difficult to lure workers who have a lot more job choices than they did just a year ago. About half of young Americans expect to be financially better off than their parents. That's according to a new poll, and a sign that the dream of upward mobility is alive but somewhat tempered. The Associated Press Nork Center for Public Affairs Research and MTV poll found that half of 15 to 26-year-olds think they will eventually be better off than their parents in terms of household finances. About 29% expect to do as well as their parents, and 20% expect to be worse off. Parents, on the other hand, were slightly more optimistic. 60% think their children will do better than they did. A ferry with some 300 people on board was stranded in the Baltic Sea today after the ship's engine failed and sent smoke pouring from the engine room. While passengers assembled at muster stations to prepare for the possibility of evacuation, the situation was reportedly under control and the evacuation deemed not necessary. There were no reports of injuries. Those are your headlines. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, I'm April Cummings.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Rotary Central Music Extravaganza is back. Be a winner this November with your Rotary Central Music Extravaganza ticket purchase of only $25. Win that grand prize of $40,000 CI dollars. Second prize $4,000. 6 $1,000 prizes and much, much more. Yes, the 23rd Annual Music Extravaganza, Saturday, November 24th, Royal Palms, West Bay Road from 7 p.m. Featuring music by Dr. Bob's Experiment, Fire Squad, and Altered Minds. Only 8,000 golden tickets now on sale through Rotary Central members and Rotary ticket sellers. Rotary Central Music Extravaganza proceeds fund over 50 community inspiration projects. You can be a winner. Your ticket, your chance, your community. Rotary Central Music Extravaganza is back.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. It is open line. Let's go to our phones. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Yes, good afternoon, dear.
Good afternoon, my friend. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm blessed.
Amen to that.
Try to live one day at a time.
That's the thing. Give thanks, right?
Yeah, I'm calling from Cayman, and I just want, I hope the Minister for Roads up here is listening, because we got a road up here on Green Hill Lane, up towards the lighthouse. And that road is so bad that after you cross the fourth house going, it's only one size, the size of a vehicle. And that's about 300, 400 feet or more than that up to the end, to the bluff. And I know the guys won't have an accident there. I won't find out who they're going to blame, because I know a lot of people speak about it, but nobody does anything about it. The road is terrible, and it's all the bushes grow over. It's just the size of a vehicle to drive in from them 4 homes up. And I hope they're listening because it's terrible. Thank you, sir. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for sharing that. Certainly appreciate it. As you go to the phones, good afternoon. You're on Talk Today. Hello, good afternoon. Hi, welcome. Thank you.
To me?
Uh-huh.
Good afternoon, dear. How are you?
Oh, excellent. How about you?
I'm fine. We're getting some rain down here, so I'm fine.
Oh, I finally need it now.
Yeah, I was listening a couple of minutes ago to the lady when she spoke of something about pension and stuff like that. So, yesterday I was talking to a lady and she said she had applied to the NEU to get a clinical card because she's a very sick woman and she's not able to work, and she carried in everything well to doctors, letters from the doctor and everything. And she said, they want her to use her little pension to pay for a clinical card. And she said she's declining not to do it today because she said she got to take her little pension to pay enough for her clinical card. What is she going to pay for other bills with? Because she said she has a few more bills besides clinical. And she said she is retired, she is a senior citizen, and she don't see why, she can't get the card without having to use her little pension to do that with. So, just bring that across because I heard the other lady talking about something kind of similar to that as well.
Now, as I listened to you, I was just reflecting on a conversation just yesterday where a few individuals have been expressing concern that as we not only look at our aging population, but the state of our health care as a nation, that maybe it's timely that we start to rethink how we access health care, not just the cost, but some of the provision of the services so that our people aren't left either, as you shared, in a case where they don't have funds because their insurance has been exhausted, they can't get insurance because they can't afford it, and so it falls to the country, or when they do have insurance and they go, it's so expensive, So, but what do you think overall we need to do about health care in the country? Is the model that we have now where, you buy private insurance from an approved provider and you buy what you can afford, or do we have some sort of a national plan that covers all of us into one large pool? However that's administered. I mean, what do you have any?
Yeah, but that sounds like that could be a good idea, because they got a lot of people up there that is elderly, really unable to work. And when you reach that, well, I wouldn't say 60, but at least that's 65 and up age, they say that it starts to fall when they reach. A lady was saying to us the other day, they say, when they get 70, it starts going downhill. So, it kind of like falls back to there. And, I think still out there, there's a lot of people that is getting help from the NEU and insurance and stuff that really don't deserve it. They're probably they're young people. They can help themselves probably. I know some of them may be sick or something, but I think the elderly really, being very sick and things, I think government needs to step in and say, okay, these is the people that we're going to look after. But these is the elderly people. They're unable to work, So I kind of think that we should just have it, just like what you said. That sounds, as in people would say, that sounds like a plan.
It is. I think as you shared more and more, consideration to what we're going to be facing with an aging population, and as we're looking at the provision of health care, how the country is not only going to afford it, but make sure it's accessible to the populace. So, is that something though that you think people are looking at because they are facing it, or is it something that we're being proactive and trying to figure out where we are now? Okay. The call.
That's what she's saying, that the insurance is so expensive.
Expensive.
And it's just because she's a sick person. She don't know if that's the reason why she has to pay so much. And she says, she really can't afford it. She don't have it. And to use her pension, she said, to pay for it. She said, and what is she going to live off of it? You don't know. She said she could die today. But then she said, I could live another 20 or 25 years. You don't know. So she said, when the pension is finished, then what I'm going to be a full burden on the government. But she said, I'm trying to stretch my pension to make it go. She said, I'm not going to take all my pension and pay it into insurance. I am not going to. She told the lady that. She's not going to do that.
Okay. It is something that I think we're looking at as a maturing society, that we ensure people can see down the road that as they age, they've been working, that they can have quality of life because the health care, and it's not just being able to go to the physicians and get the necessary checks, but as more and more recognizing those home care needs that they may need, from that trained professional to be a caretaker inside, not just the person to come in to cook and clean and do the like, but that trained nurse or nurse's aide, as it is, that can tend to you when you may have a debilitating condition or lack of mobility or other things. Things to consider, huh?
Yes, it is. It is something. It is something to think about, because, it's like I was saying to her yesterday, me and her were just, having a little chat, we were talking about last week. I mean, we had, right here in yesterday, we had 3 people died with massive heart attack. I mean, look at that young lady, 42 years of age. 42.
It is, something to consider.
Yep.
Our lifestyle generally as a society. I mean, we talk about living on an island, but are we living on an island in a sort of paradise, idyllic setting where we're taking time to exercise and smell the fresh air and go down to the beach and go fishing? Or are we so stressed just trying to get to the beach because, little things that are significant and unfortunately are being, ignored so easily?
Yeah, that's true. We have a lot of that here. A lot of stress. Yeah. You got some people that, they don't make anything worry them, then you make some people, every little thing worries them, so there's the people that will be stressed.
Yeah, some of us try to carry the world on their shoulders, and others, we have little or no concern about anything else or anyone else.
Yeah.
I guess it takes all kind to make the world go around, huh? Any other thoughts you want to share with us?
Oh, that's it. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good afternoon.
Well, thank you for being so willing to share, and again, hopefully together we make a difference, right?
Yes.
All right. Thanks again.
All right, then, Dwayne. Okay, then.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
8949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. You can WhatsApp 925-3261. It's a chance to share with us, as I look through or, play the glass window into the studio next door and see Susan with all the hive of activity around her. A celebrity is in the midst. And as we celebrate some of our people, we see how important it is to be grateful. And as I reflect on what the caller just shared, it is challenging sometimes to know that things have happened in our society and it comes very close to heart. It certainly strikes home very quickly, and yet we have to press in and press on. The question is, are we prepared to hold others accountable as we ourselves should be accountable for what we do, and are we equally willing to do all we can in order to make it that much better, not just for our own selves and improve our own lot, but the lot of others around us, not just materially and financially, but spiritually and socially, and as best as possible to improve the quality of life, that raise that standard of living. We certainly lament about the cost of living. Many have seen prices increase when we're making our purchases. Some have shared that they're unable to make ends meet. Interest rates at the banks are going up. As I shared that, and I shared because of the message that came in earlier while one of the callers were on, the message shared that, why is it that we seemingly believe that in this, globally, financial competitive environment as Cayman being significantly, at least perceived to be a player within the market, we are somehow inclined to believe that if the U.S. Federal Reserve increases its rate, therefore our banks should follow suit. We're not part of the U.S. We don't necessarily need to. Now he shares, and I'm hopeful he'll send through the information he shared, that the excuse is given by some that yes, we're tied to that market. Then perhaps there's time that we look differently. Would having our pension funds available to our own marketplace not only make it cheaper and more accessible and provide a better return for the investors in the pension, but equally make it, more affordable for some of us? I seem to be lacking that insight and that knowledge. Well, hopefully he shares what he promises. Hey, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. We have a final break, Miss Susan? Is that what we do? Well, with that final break, when we come back, you to share your thoughts. So please, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Tune in every Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. for Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio, featuring Will Sinatra. Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, reggae, and calypso, and an entertainment trivia section. The Super Jam Show is fueled by the proud sponsorship of Merengue Town. It's time to feel the rhythm, time to feel the vibes. It's time for Merengue Town.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Sing your praise to the Lord. Come on, everybody, stand up and sing one more. Hallelujah, give your praise to the Lord. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the land.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
There's a meeting up in heaven. Roll call.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Your song flowed through my lips. Your work moved through my hands. Your thoughts stay on my mind. Live in me.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you're invited to participate in the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens Brenda Tibbetts Lund Memorial 5K Walk Run on Saturday, October 6th from Cayman to the Flow Exchange and back, starting at 6 a.m. and the 5K and 10K Walk Run on Sunday, October the 14th at the 7 Mile Beach. Entry fee is $25 and participants can register online at www.caymanactive.com or the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens Peak Shop in the Elizabethan Square, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Funds raised go towards paying for mammogram screenings. There will be trophies for runners, and all participants are entered into the raffle following the event. Breast cancer survivors are also invited to attend the walk run. There will be special goodie bags for all survivors who attend.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. It is open line 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Likewise, you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Either way, share your thoughts with us if you so choose. We invite you to be a part of our discussion on this truly terrific Tuesday afternoon. Yes, many people across Grand Cayman in particular reporting a lot of rain in their respective neighborhoods. Some are seen as a welcome relief. Others are saying, whoa, is this just, wow, weather to come. Well, we are still, in the midst of hurricane season, so we're asking you not to be, alarmed, but always to be vigilant and cautious and take, proactive measures. Maybe good time to check your, sort of stocks and supplies to make sure you have, adequate water and other items to take you through if there was, God forbid, some impending hurricane or other natural disaster. Likewise, listen to the wonderful team over at the National Weather Service in respect to weather conditions. Take the warnings and advice of hazard management so that not only we can be safe, but equally that we can, when necessary, assist others because we ourselves have been prepared and are able to respond appropriately. So 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. You can share your thoughts with us, give us your feedback, and if you choose to WhatsApp, well, offer that number to you as well, 925-3261. Some of you from time to time, are like me, prepare email, and when those come in that you can share, well, our email address, talktoday@candw.ky. If you remember, as much as I'm reminded to invite you, I sometimes don't. Hey, we're on YouTube. I certainly said subscribe to us, as Susan reminds us, because you can see Mr. Art in the mornings when he's doing, for the record. But boy, then you gotta, tune in and see us here too. So good stuff. We're on YouTube, taking the show live to you, as it makes it perhaps just as easy, or sometimes easier, for some of you to be a part of our programming. Either way, we certainly appreciate it. Now, a particular, frequent listener, as she describes herself to us from time to time, has expressed, one hand, growing sort of concern for some of the dogs that she's seen in her neighborhood without leash. Seemingly, to her, she's not sure, well, does it belong to the neighbor across the street or the one, up the road? But these dogs, sometimes, just one, sometimes there are two or three. Sometimes they're chasing, the female in the pack. Sometimes they're running by themselves. And she says, it's not a question of whether the dogs may or may not be ferocious, but the fact that they're unleashed, whether they're digging in people's yards and messing up their properties, is irrelevant. She believes that if we're going to be a mature society, then we obviously need to ensure that we are paying attention and that we're being responsible pet owners. Now, she did share that from time to time, a particular police officer, she says she doesn't want to single him out, but he's been very responsive. He's come out and addressed the issue. One instance, not long ago, she said, she expressed her concern to him. He was able to speak to someone in the neighborhood only to determine that the dog isn't necessarily, belong to anyone in the neighborhood, but did frequent, with one of the other owners' dogs, and as a result, was able to have the dog leashed. But seemingly now, there are others, and she thought, what are we doing? We don't need to get to a place where the individuals in question are, exposed to some liability. But worse, what if, one, the dog meets in some mishap, is struck by a car and is injured, or the dog attacks someone and injures that person, whether it's a child or otherwise? She believes that we need to show a greater sense of responsibility as pet owners, as a community, and ensure that our dogs are leashed. Now, she says that it's not just an issue of the dogs themselves running, sort of unattended, but it's even those of us who will deliberately leash our dogs and take them for a walk. But are we picking up the droppings after, the dog does its business? She says she visits with her friend and they tend to frequent a particular area to walk. And there are many instances where, one, other people are walking in the area with their dogs, and obviously the dogs are in other people's yards or along the roadways, sometimes into the empty lots, and nobody is seemingly worried about picking up after what the dog does. But equally, it's, she says, an instances where you're walking and you're not that, that careful, you're stepping in things, and it is for her, most unfortunate, simply because there are too many, individuals who are, again, she says, not exhibiting that level of responsibility. Now, she shares, is it a case that because people don't, understand the requirements of being a responsible pet owner, is it that they know there'll be little or no enforcement? There is perhaps in their minds no law and certainly no enforcement of any law that would require them, whether it's something that they are required to do in other parts of the world, or whether or not it's something that they would do ordinarily. Now, she thought it reflects poorly on us as a society. She says, as an example, there was a particular neighborhood that they would walk in frequently that they no longer walk. She can imagine the neighbors in that area, how they must feel. People are in walking their dogs. Perhaps they live there, perhaps they don't, but are they, even aware of it? Now, she shared that in passing, perhaps this is just another evolution of our society, in that we are increasingly, so busy with our lives that we're no longer outdoors riding our bikes or walking or exercising. We go home, we go inside, and we don't always look around as what's happening to us. Now, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Now, of course, you can WhatsApp 925-3261. This individual sends a WhatsApp, simple question, asking if there's a time limit on the petition for the referendum. To answer what I know, I believe those involved with circulating the petition asking for the government to have a referendum so that the public can weigh in by public referendum whether they want the government to go forward with that proposed design and construction of the cruise port in the Georgetown Harbour. Well, I don't believe that they set a timeline to say, well, by the end of this month, by this particular date, they want to collect the requisite signatures. We will inquire with them to see if, in fact, that's the case. We do know that the Honourable Deputy Premier, and who also holds the title of Minister with responsibility for tourism, has shared just recently that he wants this matter addressed and dealt with within 6 months, because to paraphrase, he believes it's a national issue of sufficient import that it's been discussed for a very long time, and it's time to get on with it. He's a man about business, and wants to stop dragging the feet and move on with it. So he's put forward a 6-month timeline. Now, is that, as has been shared, that the cruise lines have said they've had enough, either fish or cut bait, or is it, as some have alleged, hey, wait a minute, we just got to move this on now so that we can get it to a point where there's no turning back? Well, people will weigh in on both sides and give you a convincing answer. But as far as we understand from what the question is asked, that the people who are organizing the petition, the CPR, the Cayman, the cruise port referendum, and the Save Cayman individuals haven't said, well, no, as of this date, this is when it's going on. So if you have information, I believe they're available in that social media sphere. You can contact them. If you want to find out more about the petition, sign it, ask questions, certainly reach out to them. Likewise, there are those individuals who've organized themselves as the pro-port supporters, as they are. They're out there as well, social media sphere as well. You can reach out to them and get their perspective, and maybe it'll put you in a position to be able to decide where you fall in this whole discussion. It could be, as someone said, time to move on. We've talked about it, or others have said, well, there's still so many other questions about the financing, the design, the construction, the environmental impact, whatever that particular thing is that you need clarification. Well, seek and you shall find, they say. Hey, come back tomorrow. Join me, start calling in the morning for the record. Certainly be a part of a discussion on our Talk Today program. We're going to be having a chance to talk to the acting managing director at the National Roads Authority in relation to the Road Safety Conference that's ongoing. Hopefully we'll have some others join in as well. And provide an opportunity for you to be not just informed, but engaged and involved, and hope at the end of the day, feel as if you've been empowered. Now, have a very safe, productive, and enjoyable afternoon. It is challenging, and as a caller alluded to, there have been some families who have been dealing with bereavement, and rest assured that as best and for what it's worth, our prayers are indeed with you. But it is something that strikes close to home for many, and hopefully not insensitive nor disrespectful nor seemingly dismissive as we go about our days. Likewise, the roads are certainly, perhaps drenched, maybe even a little bit more slippery than normal because of what seems to be a torrential downpour. Our students are getting off school, our parents and caregivers out and about collecting them and taking them to their next sort of engagement. Be absolutely careful, be even more cautious because of the rain potential, reduced visibility, perhaps the hazards that wet roads could create in and of by themselves. Or if you're just out and about normally, be very, very vigilant, courteous on the roads, whether it's stop signs or roundabouts, whether it's in your neighborhoods or in the parking lots. Exercise due care and attention, and be as safe on our roads. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.